Oh, one day after this lunar eclipse, and let me just check the sky at the moment. It is 1:54 p.m. I was planning on going. I was just like trusting what time to go live today, and right now the sky in real time, 1:55 p.m. on the East Coast, 3/4/2026, March 4th. So when I look at the timing, like the sky, sometimes we call it an horary, which is spelled Horary. That is kind of what we're looking at, a snapshot of the sky in the moment. So sometimes if you have questions for the moment, and I have it on real time, so it's going to move, but I have the sun and what's called, we want to look at the house placements of the snapshot of the sky in the moment. So the sun right now is in the ninth house. This is for us all. The moon is at 29 degrees of Virgo. So 29:58. So the moon is about to go into what's called the void phase. So I guess I was feeling the void right now. So we're about to pop on into the void. And the moon is, and what we call void moon is when the moon is about to change signs. So the moon is about to go into Libra, but we're going to have a good pocket of time. So I will look up the void moon timing chart in just a moment. And then we have the ascendant right now at 25 degrees of Cancer. So I want to look at that. When we look at horaries, sometimes we have to look at that for, say, when somebody sends us a message or we get a download or we have a significant event. That's technically like an horary in many ways. I read my horaries different than a book would. I read it intuitively. So let's look up void moon timing 2026. The best void moon chart that I like is Judith Astrology's void moon calendar. So she has her set for Eastern Standard Time. And March 4th, we've had a void moon since 9:53 a.m. this morning, East Coast time, and is out of the void at 1:56 p.m. So literally I went live within the minute the moon was leaving void moon. So let me check that horary again. And I did this intuitively. So I just asked, I didn't look at the astrology, I just felt it. I felt the astrology. So I will refresh it in it says it's 1:58 p.m. East Coast time. So let me refresh this chart, and yep, there's the moon. She's at 0 degrees of Libra. I did not check the timing of the chart. I simply just felt the timing of the chart. And with that timing, we have been in the void energy since 9:53 a.m. this morning. So I think that I'm recording on two screens right now. So this screen in front of me, you're not going to be able to hear, like I play music and stuff like that, and it does cut out. So there will be kind of a weird wonky sound in my audio streams because I have music on. But if you want to hear it with music, I have my X. I will continue to go live on X. I feel intuitively drawn to X right now. And because I had to appeal my Instagram account, I think it was like 3 times in 2025. I had it completely taken away from me twice. And when you appeal your Instagram account, you cannot post to Instagram for like a month. It was like almost a month both times that I could not. I had to like go through the stories, download, and then go and post that way. But it's like, and it was for very benign things. So It's just not good for me to go live on IG anymore, but it seems to be okay on X. So void course moons is a time where we're not supposed to work on new things. And so void course moon chart from astrology by judithryan.com is a wonderful chart to see when the moons are void and if you're intuitively picking up on void moons. And so during a void moon, we're actually revisiting things that we've worked on or tried in the past that maybe didn't pan out. It's not a good time to start anything new, and it's when the moons are changing signs or not aspecting any other planets. So generally about every 48 hours, we're going to have a void moon. Some are longer than others, though, and it really depends on when the moon is in contact or is aspecting other points in the chart, other planets in the chart, so or other planets in the cosmos. So, for example, our next void moon is tomorrow, and that is at 6:22 p.m. and it's all the way until 11:01 p.m. before the moon enters the sign of Scorpio. And so for just kind of play with it for anybody that is intuitively picking up on, because this is a very lunar week. We have a lunar eclipse. We have a lot of nodal energy in the sky. Eclipses are based upon where the location of what's called our elliptical nodes are. And these are magnetic points based on the rotation of planet Earth. And so when we work through this, we are given an opportunity. And I don't generally check on void course moons, but today I felt it, and it must be because we're in such lunar eclipse energy that I was really feeling that lunar energy on the south node where she's at. So tomorrow we're gonna be working on energy now where the eclipse taught us something. The eclipse released and let go of something. And we might not have words for that right now as a collective. We might not have an understanding or an understanding on what was being let go. And this is collective. This is personal. This could be familial because the moon is family related. It could be related to a family lineage story or lore or something related to something that's been passed down. It can be traditions. It can be experiences. It can be things that the family has to really work through. And so now we're in the energy of Libra, which kind of emotionally balances out maybe things that you were internalizing. Virgo is an internalizing sign, and you were internally processing. And now with the moon in Libra, the moon is ruled, or Libra is ruled by the planet Venus. So Miss Venus is in Pisces, and she is at the end of Pisces. And she will be there again until Miss Venus, March the 6th. And the time of that is 5:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in a different time zone, just calculate that for what 5:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is for your time zone on March 6th. And Venus will enter Aries. So that's very interesting because we're getting we're watching an interplay of energy here. So right now we're working through Venusian experiences, feminine experiences from a more balanced Libra perspective, because Libra is an air sign, Venus ruled zodiac sign. So air is cognitive, intellect. We have two signs that are ruled by Venus, Taurus and Libra. And so on March the 6th, we're actually going to have our moon in Scorpio when we have a long ass void course moon. Let me back up. Let me back it up. This is where sometimes I read really fast or I type really fast. And this is also my own Mercury stuff or my own how I process words. So March the 5th, 6:22 p.m., the moon goes void all the way through March the 6th. That changes the game, so I made a mistake. And by the way, I'm channeling. I'm on a live stream for a reason because mistakes are okay. We learn from them. So for me, it's just to slow down, ground myself, be very Libra moon right now, and balance. So March the 6th, the moon enters Scorpio instead of the 5th. And that void course moon ends at 11:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is going to be, there's going to be the moon in Libra during the ingress of Venus in Aries. So the entrance of the transit, we call it an ingress. So Venus will be at the very beginning of Aries, linking up with Saturn and Neptune in Aries this week. I called something on my live stream for tomorrow based on holidays, but based on the moon, which these strikes seem to have a pattern with, they might be following the moon. So let me go back for a moment into January. January 2nd, we had a void moon, very quick one, before the moon entered the sign of Cancer, where that full moon was when we were dealing with, let me go back into January for a second. I really came here to do tarot today, but that's what intuition is all about. So January 3rd at 5:03 a.m., we had that full moon in Cancer, and that's when we had, around that time, was that Venezuelan strike from the U.S. to Venezuela. Interesting. Are they going to work off a Scorpio moon here, or are they going to be in a void moon? Because I'm going off of tomorrow, we have a holiday for Isis, the goddess of the sea, or the goddess. That's a very generalized statement. Very generalized. We'll say the goddess that welcomes soldiers from the sea. So I do view tomorrow as a day that we are in the void. All of 305 is a day that we are in the void for most of the East Coast. So think about today how from 9 a.m., 9:53 a.m. till just about a few moments ago, we were in a void energy. What were you doing? Look at your pattern. Look and see what was going on in your life and how you were maybe revisiting something or felt like you were stuck. And take that forward through tomorrow, through March 6th, and see what this void energy is teaching you about stillness and frequency. Because I know that I was like very compelled to listen to only frequency music and to really prepare for these lives in a way that is like, if this is my business, how would I do this? If this is what my purpose, part of my purpose is, how would I do this? So that's what I did during the void moon. And so here's some suggestions, and I'll be on both. Persistent presence. And this is the 9 of light codes, or the 9 of wands. And I love There is another tarot reader who calls this the Wounded Warrior card, Warrior. Where are you, the Wounded Warrior? Where are you, somebody whose what battle did you fight? And how did this battle teach you how to help others? You know, I would say, I talk about stand-up comedy a lot. I'm going to reference a show I was on called Kill Tony. I didn't know at the time what that show taught me, but it taught me something about different ways, the dojo per se, of certain types of intricate behaviors. So one of the things is in stand-up comedy, it is a world of hierarchy, right? It's old school structured hierarchy. And so when you're doing that, you got to get your elbows dirty a little bit. You got to go into the dojo a bit. You got to understand that it's not so, like, you could have all the data in the world, but when you're in front of certain type, like, if anybody's a gamer, for example, you roast each other, you roast battle each other all the time. So one of the things that you kind of go, and it's like, you know, it's not a matriarchy. So at the end of the day, it's like the beauty of the masculine and the feminine right now is all waking up. But there is an imbalance. And now that we have the moon in Libra, we can discuss the imbalance of this. So as in and out, as above, so below. And this is not from, I'm sure you're going to get accused of certain things. Sometimes people are just born with it, right? Some people are just born with the knowledge. Some people have connection. Some people are of a certain thing. Maybe you were born into an indigenous, have indigenous roots of and have a natural knowing. But right now we're still on the platform of logic and reason, and that rules our capitalistic society. It's really hard to adjust to right now for a lot of people, including myself. And so be very patient with the fact that it's going to take, and I'm saying this to me as well, but it's going to take some time. So I see wildcats here, and there is the purity of, you know, the woman I have to cover up because I will get taken down if I don't cover her. And then courageous alignment, the 7 of light codes, which is the 7 of wands. So if we go into battle, right, this is the card of competition and battle, and knowing that, you know, picking and choosing your battles. And unfortunately, sometimes when your battles are, here's something I learned the hard way. In 2020, I was invited to a very, very, very big podcast, and it was like a game changer for me. It would have been a game changer. It was so much that I had a friend from Richmond, Virginia, send me a candle because I was going to give them a gift on the podcast. And she made like Divine Mother candles, and she had like ethically sourced like stones and all sorts of things. And you know, the person who grew up that was like, oh my god, this is so cool, my friends from home, all this shit. But there's something that I learned because I was living in LA at the time, and I wanted to be, there's so many things as a comedian. You want to like be like the big boys, you want to be like the big, you know, the head honchos, you want to, you know, you want to be it, you know, you have your mentors that you listen to in podcasts, and you listen, like as a comedian, I listened to them going on the road. You know, they were the people that drove me forward, right? As I went to gigs in random towns around America and got paid shit. Sometimes not even getting paid. Sometimes it was just a basket of French fries, and you drove 5 hours and you got to figure out how to have gas to get back, and your family hates you because you're following your dreams and you're a loser and not using your degree. and you're fighting through the competition, right? You're trying to get up the levels, up the ranks, just like in a military setting. And you take the hits and you take the guys calling you all sorts of things. And in comedy, men say so many things. And it's men in your field, right? It's men that you looked up to. I had a man like that I looked up to for so long. And a lot of things happened with that. And I did not go on that podcast. And it took me a really long time to mentally deconstruct what all that was. And the reason I'm sharing this is what I realize now in 2026, after years of rage and anger and realizing maybe I was baited, maybe I was sourced, maybe what I was born with was actually the source of that person's energy. Maybe what I naturally have, and I think this happens to a lot of people who don't realize that they have a certain beauty to just what they were born with, what maybe the zeitgeist may not call you cool, or may not be part of something, you might not be part of their club. I'm going to tell a story. Shadow clearing, I got to cover her too. Shadow clearing, shadow cleansing, shadow clearing. Okay, I'm going to tell a story, lived experience that I have held in for a long time, but I was in Hollywood. Be the mountain. Be the mountain. Mountains are the strength, right? There's the pretty trees and things that might look shiny, but the mountains have been there for so long. In fact, the Appalachian Mountains are so old, they're studied for some of the entities that may live within them. And there's so much lore to them because of what continents they may have been in, areas and regions that these energies, these stone energies, were connected to. So I was in Hollywood. This happened to me twice, actually wearing this jacket. Okay, I'll talk about this in a moment. And I worked for a really, really good big club, one of the big three in Hollywood. It was a dream to work for any of the big clubs. None of them really, like, you have to go through the dojo, right? And what I started realizing is I was asking my soul, do I want to go through the dojo here? Is this the dojo I need to go through? Or is this my ego saying this is what the gold medal looks like in comedy? You know, I just pulled this card. Oh, that was not the card I pulled, but this is the card that came out. The Woodland Forest, the Sage of Earth Guardians. Okay. And the Rainforest, the 10 of Earth Guardians. We'll talk about these in a moment. I want to read, Rainforest has been pulled. Oh, a lot of, whoa, hold up. A lot of feminine, divine feminine, the garden. Okay. I'm hearing the message. 76, Woodland Forest. I gotta read you first. And then who else is in here? Oh, she's a placeholder. She's a book holder right now. The Meadow. A lot of divine feminine energy just whoosh on out. Okay. I'm gonna cap this story for a moment and read her meaning here. She wants to be heard for a moment, so I'm gonna. The Woodland Forest, the Sage of Earth Guardians. Be confident in your leadership abilities and unique gifts. Foster healthy systems to manage your finances well. Be confident in your financial success. You have cultivated your ability to attract wealth by translating your visions into something tangible and lucrative. This card signifies a financial fulfillment through responsibility, diligence, discipline, and an awareness of investment. There are protocols. Here's the thing. Okay. That have been configured over time that you find work well. There is sustainability to your endeavors, which ensures all those involved are looked after. She's got little lights around her. Okay, if anybody needs to hear that, I feel like I need to reread this sentence for providers. That's what I hear. For those who consider yourself a provider, there is sustainability to your endeavors, which ensures all those involved are looked after. And I feel like a swell of tears here because I feel like for so long, when you're in a situation where you're like, how is everybody going to get food? How is everybody going to have safety, security, and love? How are we going to be heard? How respected, integrity, right? There is no need to prove yourself. There is no need to prove yourself. Your sense of thrival is grounded in your balanced self-worth and bigger picture perspective. Your roots are in the grounding earth with your branches reaching up tall to the heavens. This feels like if there's a masculine on here listening, this is your wife. Listen to your wife. This is your wife. Okay? It's your divine feminine that they're most likely have been saying this nicely, probably daily. And if you say, oh, this is the thing, and it'll be most likely a joke. Yeah, you didn't need that. You needed this. You just needed yourself. You just needed your voice. You just needed your family. You just needed your community. We got you. They most likely have been saying this over and over and over and over again. Okay, I'm just going to side conversation away from that. Okay. Gotta get the hair ready. All right. Your actions make you a true leader in the ways of the new earth. If your current financial situation does not reflect this card encourages you to implement new systems to help you manage your abundance, to grow it rather than squander it. Find someone who inspires you, or maybe consider getting a mentor. Listening to podcasts or following people on social media who have mastered this part of their life can be very helpful. So I'll put a pin in that. Surrounding yourself with those who have built systems in their daily life and habits, which allow them to make their reality more effortless. It takes 21 days to integrate a new habit. Some intentions, set some, okay, hold up. Sorry, y'all. I cannot read. Set some intentions and see what you can do in this time. It is good to note that while it is great to be inspired and uplifted by the endeavors of others, comparing yourself is not such a good idea. Sometimes you have no idea what went on behind the scenes for them. We've all had different challenges in our lives, and we also have superpowers in different areas. Work with what you know to be your unique gifts. Harness and nourish them for greater thrival. Okay, so I know that that's probably also a message for myself, but I think we're in a time right now where every shadow is being thrown at us, and it's your particular shadow. Whatever you feel is your shadow. So if your shadow is reflected through other places, people, places, and things, then that shadow is being cleansed. And listen to the divine feminine energies in your life, the divine feminine energies in your life for wisdom. Because part of this is, last night I was like deeply reflecting on my anger at the patriarchy, but I'm not angry at men. I actually was in a deep sadness for a lot of men right now who have been sold something. And so I'll try and find, there's a guy on TikTok, but he's also moved over to Insta, or he's on Instagram as well. And he has a lot of sage advice about certain things. And a lot of the things that we've been sold are also deeply in the subconscious. And I woke up and like I write jokes in my head, and I'm not going on stage right now because I am cleansing my shadow. And so part of that is I am fasting until Easter, and I am not doing comedy because I don't want my brain to go into competition and to go into I should be doing this, or to go into I should be at this level. There's no you should be at anything. There's really just, this is all a spiritual lesson, and are all light beings. And that's something like I'm still reminding myself because, I was in comedy for a long time and my body absorbed what men were telling me, even though they're like, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, it's just this and that. Sometimes you have to step back and realize there are spiritual beings also called to things like gaming, stand-up comedy, mainstream media. And there are players in that game that might not recognize the energy that they have. Some people were born into deep trauma and don't know how to use that trauma. So this goes back into my story that I used to work in this club in Hollywood. And it was during a time where we were required to wear masks to work. And I was a hostess. And there was a specific comedian that is very much in the podcast land. I will never name him. I think I've named him on episodes on my private page that I may or may not be keeping. But I'm not here. I think a lot of times men have learned that they are in the buddy system, and that is huge. That's part of their law, right? That's men's law. We are the warriors together, and we are here to be the protectors. But I think somewhere along the way, it got infiltrated by certain energies. So the natural order of the male hierarchy naturally compromised to support certain things. That's why we're seeing things like the files and what these men have done, not just to keep power, but I think a lot of times there's men code. And men code has, unfortunately, I feel so bad. I feel like a lot of men need to go out to the meadow, need to go out to the forest, need to go out to the garden and cry it out with their bros and just get it out, because you don't need to heal. I think a lot of men, the thing I was thinking of that I would have written as a joke and ranted about on stage is, I really strongly think guys should just go out into the woods together and just fucking cry. Like sit in the grass and cry and just put your hands on the ground and just let out the pain of all of the pressure. Especially if you're providing for a family, all of the pressure to keep the bills paid, all of the pressure to be like, oh, this is the person I have to know, this is the thing I have to do, this is the thing we have to have. If we just recognize, like, and I'm saying this to myself because I'm angry, I'm healing rage. Then when I was in Hollywood, this one guy, my energy, my hair would just stand up. My whole body would like break out into like my hair standing up anytime he would go past me. And he does have a father that's like very well known in the industry as well. He's a very handsome man. And I would just give him his space. He performed at the club. Like, I would just always give him his space when I was, not always be respectful. go by the code, right? Um, I think it's a lot for a lot of these men in these very powerful spaces to recognize that a lot of the guys that are possibly in their spaces also might have energetic compromise. Certain ones. I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying there are certain ones, and it's not their fault per se. Maybe they're more susceptible to certain things. But I was sitting up, this club had 2 levels to it. And so I was sitting up. One day I went and I was sitting up at the top just watching comedy. Like, as a comedian, you sit and you listen to comics to kind of learn how they, oh, what's the timing? How are they looking at the audience? How they change the joke. Like, say they did a joke one night and then they rehash the joke another night, but say they started out with the punchline, or say they flipped it, or say they added something, or say they ad-libbed something, or their styles. Like, I will say, like, one of the club that I worked at, there's a specific comedian who I do think he was so big when I was in college, and I was able to, like, he was a hard ass worker too. What a hard worker, and such a good person. You could just tell he is like a really kind heart. And the way I used to watch him, he had very specific rules. So one of my jobs was to make sure nobody was filming him, and understandable. And so one of the things was, like, if you just saw somebody like live streaming him or anything like that, you just have to go and be like, hey, this person has asked that you don't film. And I was able to, like, hear his process. And that's something that's really cool about working in a comedy club. I was able to hear how he kind of reformed jokes, and I still have, like, jokes of his in my head, and then I was able to hear how he did it at different clubs. So it's, like, really cool to see how how comedians change jokes. My style is I just allow my anger to be my fuel, and if I want to talk about something, I just put my foot on the gas and keep fucking going with the fucking bit. So usually it's something I'm angry about. It's usually something that I'm very passionate about. A lot of times my passion is mistaken for anger, or, for something. But one of the things I also want to say is when I was at the club watching, I was upstairs at this club by myself, just doing my thing, watching comics. It was on my day off, and my hair stood up, and I looked behind me, and it was the guy that anytime he came in, my hair would stand up. But he also, like, anytime he, like, went past, he would just inch closer to my body. He never touched my body, he would just inch closer. And I was just like, take note of this. Don't complain about it. You've got a job to do. You've got a career to build. You've got, you understand what you're in. You're in the military, essentially, of comedy, Hollywood comedy type vibes, the Hollywood system. But that particular day, my hair stood up and I realized I was all alone upstairs. And then time and space started feeling slow. And I was like, you understand this. You know this feeling. And I feel like I'm supposed to continue to discuss this, so I'm just going to pull a card for myself to see if I should keep talking about this. It's like my equalizing power, the Tower. I'm scared to talk about it. I will not use names. I'm not trying to throw people under the bus. 4 of activations. I think it's an energy. I don't think it's this guy's fault. But whatever was attached to him, or whatever was in his family lineage, it dictated his moves. It dictated his body. It dictated what he did. It dictated what he was. And it's not his fault. He probably needs, like, an ayahuasca ceremony to get it out of his system, because it wasn't his fault. I could tell it wasn't his fault. Whatever was driving him was doing this. And so something was like, you need to get out of here. And it was just a slow feeling. You need to get out of here. You need to trust your instincts. I could smell him. It was such a weird, visceral feeling. I could smell him. And so he was with somebody, I'm guessing was his agent, like actual like professional agent or somebody in on the back end of the industry. And I just heard the guy say to him, "Do you need me to get security?" And the thing is, security was my friend who I worked there with. They were like, "Yeah, go on upstairs." So they didn't know who I was. They didn't know that I was just a comic just trying to learn. And so I remember leaving the club immediately and going to there's like a garage, like a LA has like it's Sunset Boulevard, but there was like a garage that I parked at like this main place that has like movie theater, grocery store, all this stuff, and you can park there. And for whatever reason that night, it was like, get out of here, but I could feel the energy following me. And when I looked in this guy's eyes, they were black. When I was leaving, his eyes were completely black. And this happened twice. This happened 2 times out there. I'm not. And by the way, if I speak with my hands, so I'm really trying to like stim. I'm trying not to like look. I I've gotten messages. I understand how I can be interpreted, but please hear my words. Um. So I was in the underground parking garage and got to my car quickly to leave, and it was so weird because you have to pay for parking. And whatever was on my energy, whatever the feeling was going to the car, the parking attendant just immediately lifted. Like, they didn't even have me pay. They just lifted the garage door thing, and it was almost like spirit was protecting me in that moment. It was just like I got in my car, took a deep breath, and I was like, "You're safe," but whatever that was, you've seen it before. And I was able to leave the garage and go. But it was such a moment in time that I'll never forget that feeling of my hair just standing up and tingling at the top of my head and seeing that guy's eyes, and they were black. And it was just the 3 of us in that upstairs little place, and it got so quiet. It was like all of the energy, it was just so quiet in that timing. The other time it happened to me was at another comedy club, and viscerally, I saw another person, their eyes turned black. And I got up instinctually in their face and really assessed their energy. And for some reason, and I just was like, you're witnessing something. But I didn't quite have words for it. I didn't quite understand it. And it didn't scare me to be like, oh, I'm too scared to do comedy. It just made me assess what the entertainment industry actually is. And so, and then there was another comedian that I looked in their eyes and assessed them, and I sent a message to them. I was like, you're good. So they're good. They're fine. But anyway, I think that there's a lot of poison in Hollywood, unfortunately. And I was talking about on one of my tweets the gold rush. And I was talking about how I think the gold rush had nothing to do with saying, like, it was a conquering mission, which eventually led to Tinseltown, Hollywood, which eventually led to people like Marilyn Monroe, who are what I would say maybe she was a trapped soul. Here she is again. The 10 of Earth Guardians, the family energy, 10 of Pentacles. The original 10 of Pentacles is the family protection. The Radiant Feminine, the Priestess of Light Codes, that's the Queen of Wands. Let's see what's coming through here, because I kind of want to step back. I think this is going to be the 6th with this Venus conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I think we're going to have something related to the rise of the feminine on that date. Although 305 is something I think of like Miami 305. Here she is again, the shadow cleanser. So there's different versions of the sacred feminine, right? We have Tara, who's the compassionate mother, green Tara, often depicted. We have Lilith, who's often feared, or Kali Ma, who's often feared. We have different versions of the sacred femme. So sometimes you'll see like volcanoes erupt, Medusa or Algol in astrology, who's at the end degrees of Taurus. She does not fuck around. She's the fuck around and find out goddess. She's extremely intuitive, but she is very FAFO about her energy. So right now, as the feminine rises in her many faces and forms, there might be days that it's calm and collected, and then there might be days where the wrath of the goddess is like, hey y'all, like, this is a message here, listen to this. But I'm not angry at Hollywood. I've had to grieve a lot because I feel like stepping away from stand-up the way that I do has been me failing. And I want to say, if anybody out there feels like you're failing, here's something I've learned. Is when it doesn't feel like it's in your integrity to continue and your body is screaming at you to step away, that's a beautiful lesson of your intuitive gifts. Because I will tell you, like, I met my comedy, like the pinnacle of like my comedy mentor, or somebody that, like, they say never meet your heroes. And I've had to learn a lot from this person. I've had to really take a lot of years to forgive myself, to forgive them, to forgive the patriarchal setup that men were shown as well is what it is. And kind of also remind myself that my intuition is on point about people generally. And I think a lot of women have to learn that. Like, the America's Next Top Model documentary came out, and I know comedians that were on that, and there's a lot of abuse that went through that. And I keep saying two, so I'm going to talk about twin flames. That's why I think I keep saying two. Twin flames are really something that I have a podcast from 2019. If you want to look up the podcast under my name, it's had so many different names, but I started with Solar Plexus and Chill, and then it became the Spiritual Travels of the Fire Wolf, and then now it's Trust Your Glitter. But on that, there's like a 2019, this is my confirmation, twin flames, the lovers. Okay, so twin flames are part of this ascension process that we're all in right now. And a lot of times our twin flame is our direct mirror of us. So literally, it's like the person that represents either the divine masculine force or the divine feminine force within us in another person, a mirror to soul, right? And so a lot of times it really depends on the twin flame assignment. So sometimes it's love and light and everything is perfect. And then a lot of times, based on the soul path, the twin flame journey, there's often called like a runner and a chaser. And it really can flip, because if it's like a magnetism between two souls, or like between souls, it's usually saying like one and the same soul, although I have lots of hypotheses around that this journey of twin flames is like a spiritual leveling up. So it is like your souls are on a mission separately, and they are either meant to come together, or they're not meant to come together, or they are connected in the cosmos, and it doesn't really matter what happens in the material. Although if you do go on Twin Flame, like Twitter or Twin Flame TikTok, there's people that say, well, there should be union. And sometimes I agree with that. The Labyrinth. Let me see why I pulled the Labyrinth. And by the way, you don't have to marry your twin flame. You don't have to. It's really just a spiritual assignment, right? The infinite life force, we're all connected. It's just that twin flames have a specific assignment. So the sun is about joy. The sun is about cosmic light. The sun is going to probably be, I mean, at the end of the day, they're like, oh, AI, AI, AI. And I'm like, okay, well, tell the universe that, because the universe may be like, hey guys, just to let you know, I'm taking away your phones for a while. I'm taking away, like, we're like cosmic children. And she's like, okay, that's cute. But what if you can't plug things in? What if it's just funny. Let me pull one more card. I'll talk about twin flames as I go along. This says it's not ready yet, so this says it's not ready yet, and I do feel like it's a collective, like, ask your question, and then this is what I'll interpret the card as. Ooh, the High Priestess. The High Priestess. Wisdom of the Sacred. The deep intuition within yourself. Very Avatar. This is from Izzy Ivy. I will continue to shout out her card deck. It is beautiful. So the cosmic heart, here's some symbols. There's roses. I think she's in like a Central American temple. Cosmic wings. There are butterflies. Now, if we talk about the symbol of the butterfly, I will get into that down the line, but I think that's the twin flame healing, because I think that's what Hollywood did, was they tried to take us away from that energy. So we'll talk about that another time. So butterflies are not bad. It's just that every symbol on this planet has been infiltrated by these motherfuckers. Okay. I feel like she's underwater. That's how I feel when I look at this card. But you can interpret it your own way. So I wonder if it's like Izzy's interpretation, because she did paint all of these tarot cards. These are paintings you can actually get, and she painted them on ley lines. And I feel like this is underwater. So I just hear Sacred Womb. Okay. One more card. It says, for the masculine, look who's back, the Wounded Warrior. The Wounded Warrior. Honor your journey as a warrior. You did really good. A lot of y'all did real good. Are doing really good. If nobody told you today. I see orange, so turmeric might be helpful. Turmeric tea in the morning, throughout the day. Sip it out of glass containers if you can. If you don't have that, just please sip turmeric tea. That's what I feel. Not a doctor. Just where I saw that was, I looked right here. There's like an orange dot, or like an orange, and I saw turmeric in there. So it's something about flushing the tissues if people are picking things up. And that is, and I mean pollutants. And that is what I have to say for the day. Have a great day. Take care. Be safe. Bye. Bye.